What's going on, everyone? I'm your host, Anish Labduni. I'm over here riding around in Wet Homestead. We're having a wet start to this Christmas holiday break, so it's starting to feel like a wet Christmas, one that I never knew before anyway. But anyhow, I was going to talk about one thing, but I decided I'm going to talk about something else, considering that I'm driving and I can't put up other stuff to prove my point and so on and so forth when it comes to that. So I'm going to leave that topic for another day as I deal with the traffic on this road, because people do not know how to drive and I refuse to get in an accident for anybody. But one thing I wanted to talk about was police. The funny thing about police and how they operate within our communities and so on and so forth, they keep saying over and over, they're hired by the communities, they're hired by the citizens to protect and serve. If in fact these civil servants are hired by us, the civilians, the community, the citizens of the community that pay taxes, why is it so hard for us as the civilians, the citizens, to fire the ones we do not like? To fire the ones that we feel are doing more harm than good to our community? Why is that so hard? That's a real question. Because they say over and over that these police officers are hired by the community, they're hired by the citizens to protect and serve the community. Last time I checked, I wasn't part of the hiring process. I wasn't sitting there during the interview and saying like, well, let's take a look at your record and be like, well, I don't like you. You have a history of violence at Hialeah Police Department, so I don't want you here in Homestead, Officer Maguido, or anything of that nature. So how is it that these officers are hired by us, but we cannot fire them? Take, for example, that officer, I believe it was in Texas. I believe it was a Texas, Houston officer, I believe it was, that had that incident with the black women because of the 7-year-old son was choked out by the white neighbor, and then that dick of an officer had the audacity to ask the woman, well, how come you haven't taught your son not to litter? And then when the woman said, well, regardless of what he was doing, the white neighbor does not have the right to choke out my son, and that dick was so fresh to say, well, why not? Excuse me? Why not? Fuck you mean, why not? He has no right to do that. But anyway, I don't want to go into that. I want to go into the officers. If we as a community have the power, so they want to tell us to hire these civil servants, these bastions of order, law and order, if they're fucking up, if they're doing wrong, why do we have to jump through hoops? Why do we have to wait 2, 3 years, 4 years for information proving that these people are fuck-ups to fire them? Why is that? Explain that to me. Because trust and believe, I mean, I understand there's a process for terminating someone from employment. You get the verbal warning, then your written warning, then you get a couple of strikes or whatever. But we're talking about, okay, these people are doing actual harm, physical harm in the community, in the city. And not only are they doing physical harm in the community, in the city, but they're actually doing financial harm, because then, you know, lawsuits drop. People start filing lawsuits. And then instead of admitting the wrong of these officers, what they do is like, okay, well, the officer is justified, but we're going to go ahead and settle for $1.2 million. So we're costing the city money. We're costing the taxpayers money, but at the same time, still saying that the officer was not wrong. If the officer was not wrong, then you wouldn't have to pay anything in the first place. If the officer was not wrong, then there would be no money going out to these families. If the officer was not wrong, regardless of whatever insurance you may have to cover the city and its incidentals, that would not be considered one of those incidentals. It would not. it would be considered a fuck up by that employee that costs your corporation, your company, $1.2 million. When is the last time a company lost $1.2 million because of one employee and kept the employee on? When was the last time? I'll wait. No answer. Okay. So why is it that these officers, especially repeat offenders, that cost the city, cost the municipalities or whatever, city governments and so on, multiple millions of dollars for their bullshit, for their actions, but yet they get to stay out on these streets patrolling, they get to stay doing what they're doing and get to repeat their actions, and the only excuse we give them is, oh, they need to undergo more training. They need to undergo sensitivity training. No regular employee would be offered that option. None. Just think about it. Because I've been thinking about it. I was thinking about it today as I'm watching what's going on. There's no way, if I was working for a company and I cost them $1 million, would they keep this liability of $1 million on the books? No way. But yet we still want to tell people that, hey, it's a good officer, it was justified, we're just gonna pay this money anyway, we're gonna keep it on the books and keep it going. Do we as a community, we as citizens of the community, really have the power to fire these civil servants that we so-called put in place? Do we? Do we really have that power? Do we really have the power, Homestead City Government, Homestead Police Department, to get rid of officers like Officer Vega and Officer Maguido? Do we really have that power? Because from what it seems like is after Officer Maguido cost Hialeah countless dollars, countless hours in litigation and prosecution and whatever, an investigation, countless man hours. I find it ridiculous that Homestead Police Department would go ahead and bring him on so he can now cost the city of Homestead, the people of Homestead, costless man hours, regular dollars, in dealing with his fuckery. Yeah, I said it. Dealing with his fuckery. But maybe I'm just naive. Maybe we do have the power, but it takes us 3, 4, 5 years to actually implement that power. While in the meantime, they get to operate with impunity, damaging reputations, damaging names, damaging all kinds of records, destroying lives. In a split second, Officer Anthony Green, in split second, destroy lives. But it takes years and years and years for repercussions to be had. Why is that? Can someone explain that to me? I bet you can. But yet, here we are, enslaved to this binding contract that none of us signed up on, for these police officers to remain in our communities, to remain harassing and terrorizing our communities. Now you want to say, oh, you're anti-cop, you're anti-law enforcement. I am definitely not. I'm anti-corruption, anti-scandal, anti-bullshit. If you're going to do your job, you're going to do your job correctly. That's it. Yes, I may feel some kind of way that at the course of feel some kind of way that during the course of you doing your job correctly, people are affected in a negative fashion, but you did your job correctly, so guess what? I cannot hold that against you, even though officers do hold full discretion. And you can listen to Officer Dominic Arizzo, I believe his name is. You can check it on our YouTube. I have his video posted. Officer Dominic Arizzo who was fired from Round Lake for exposing police bullshit. As an officer with 15 plus years in duty, serving the community. I wanted to ask my listeners, do we as citizens of our cities, of our local governments, of our communities, do we actually have the power to tell a cop to pack his bags? Do we? Let me know. I'm about to reach my destination right now, so I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. But that's something to consider. If we can hire, why can't we fire? If we actually doing the hiring, we're the one paying. Why can we not say, okay, you know what? We don't want to pay this guy. We don't like this guy. This guy is messing up. No more. Cut the payments off. Let him go. And if you don't want to let him go, we're gonna let you go. I guess that's where the elections for the police chief may come in. Hey, what a tangled web we weave. I'm NH Live Dooney. Deuces.